Today we're going to walk you through exactly how long it takes to prepare for a half marathon, specifically as a female runner over the age of 45. After the 5K, the half marathon is the next most popular distance. There were 2.1 million finishers in the half marathon alone in the US in 2019. So if you're thinking of doing a half marathon, you're in the right place.
For runners who have done 5Ks or 10Ks and looking for the next challenge, or for those who have even run longer distances, the half marathon is the perfect distance to sink your teeth into. It's not as intense as running a full marathon, and the training is a lot more manageable than the shorter, more speed-focused distances.
Let's start with pacing. Just like slowly brewing your coffee, you need to keep your easy runs really easy and run them at a really relaxed pace. It's about building your aerobic endurance, which is the main energy system that we use for a half marathon. Think of it like this. You need your coffee to brew slowly, and it's the same with your easy runs. You need to do your easy runs easy to build your aerobic foundation, allowing you to handle the longer distances.
General volume matters here. Running your easy runs easy enough allows you to build the endurance that allows you to cover an hour and a half to 3 hours that it takes most runners to run a half marathon. Now, how long do we actually need to prepare?
As a bare minimum, it'll take you 8 to 12 weeks if you're already running consistently and used to running races. But for most runners, 12 to 16 weeks works better. This time frame helps build fitness, avoids burnout, and maintains motivation.
But why so much time? It's all about progression. You need to gradually build your long runs, your easy runs, your faster paced runs over a period of time. And let's not forget about the taper, which could be 2 to 3 weeks to make sure that you're as fresh as possible come race day.
A typical plan will break down to 4 to 6 weeks of building volume, 4 to 8 weeks of peak training, and then a 2 to 3 taper to help you freshen up. Let's talk about the build-up period. You want to gradually increase your mileage. Just like brewing your coffee slowly, you want to build your mileage up slowly. You can't hold peak volume and intensity continuously. You need to build your mileage volume up slowly. It's essential not to jump too fast into higher volume weeks.
For example, in the first 6 weeks of training, the long run progression for someone that's aiming for a sub 2 hour half marathon is going to look something like this. In week 1, you'd probably be looking at about an hour and a half. In week 2, building that up to an hour 40. In week 3, it's important to then cut back into a recovery week, so your long run will only be about an hour long. Week 4 will then kick back up to an hour 50. Week 5, building up to 2 hours, and then again in week 6, back down to an hour 15 for that recovery week. This slow build gives your body time to adapt to those long runs without the risk of injury. Now, fueling your body is just like making sure that you are getting enough caffeine throughout the day. Nutrition is key to performing well, not only on race day, but also throughout the training process.
Proper nutrition prevents low energy availability, which could leave you fatigued and prone to injury. So fuel up, and remember, carbs are your friend. Don't restrict them, especially during half marathon training.
Exactly, Nikki. And just like you wouldn't start a long day without coffee, don't start your training without the right fuel.
And here comes strength training. It's like the espresso of your plan. It may be small, but it packs a punch. A strong body is key for avoiding injury and building stamina for the half marathon distance.
Exactly. Strength training improves bone health, muscle mass, and performance, and is especially crucial for female runners over the age of 45. Just a small amount can make a huge difference. Here at Coach Parry, we refer to strength training as resistance training. Now, it's important to just note, resistance training can be everything from body weight exercises all the way to doing resistance bands or weights in the gym. Now, why it is so important is for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we want to help minimize the risk of injury. Strength training helps us fortify our joints, our muscles, our tendons, our ligaments, and really helps your body handle the types of load and forces that are going to be put on them, especially once we start training more and improving or increasing our running volume. By having stronger joints, muscles, ligaments, and tendons, it does mean that that constant repetitive action of running and that impact up the legs, especially with that eccentric loading, means our body can handle that and there is less fatigue happening, or our resistance to fatigue is actually improved. That also helps us recover a lot quicker, which means our risk of injury is a lot lower. So that's the first side. Secondly is now the running performance side. And there are two ways that this can be done. First is sort of a direct measure, and that is improving our force production. So stronger muscles means we can put more force and more power into every stride and push us off in a linear motion really strong and really forcefully. And then the indirect measure to that is really helping with running efficiency and alignment. So if you imagine your glutes and your quads, for instance, are a little bit weak, your hips might drop slightly. So as a result, it means you need to work a little bit harder to get the alignment upright first before producing that force in that linear motion. If we're stronger from strength training, that alignment is already there. We don't have to work quite as hard to produce that force and be able to run faster in a forward motion. Hence, our improvement in our running performance. Once you've built that foundation, it's time for the peak period. This is where we really focus on getting race ready. It is during those 4 to 8 weeks that it is absolutely important to slowly build up those longer runs a little bit more, as well as adding in a little bit more intensity in the form of interval training or tempo type runs.
Your long runs won't increase dramatically during this phase. You're not trying to run the distance in training. What you're doing is building stamina and endurance, getting ready for the race on race day. It's about preparing your body to run the half marathon on race day with confidence. Finally, let's talk about tapering. This is a crucial stage in your training. Just like you allow your coffee to cool down before you drink it, you have to reduce your training volume to allow your body to recover and rest and sharpen up in time for race day.
A well-executed taper can improve your performance by 2 to 3%. Over a half marathon distance, that can mean minutes on your race time. For example, a 3-week taper might look like this. 3 weeks out from race day, you would have cut down to about 80% of your peak training volume. 2 weeks out from race day, you'll further cut that down by about 50 to 60% of your peak volume. And in the final week to race day, you're all the way down to 30 to 50% of your peak training volume. And that is excluding race day. Remember, during taper, you don't want to slow down too much. Keep the intensity, but reduce the overall mileage. But before we even think about focusing on the taper, it is important to remember that training for a half marathon is all about a slow, steady progression and consistency to your training. You want to gradually increase your long runs from an hour to 2 hours over the period of time to make sure that we are building strength and resilience, but without the risk of injury. So just as the progression of your training and your taper is crucial for your half marathon preparations, one absolutely vital aspect is your sleep and recovery. So let's talk recovery.
Training is a breakdown process and sleep is where the recovery happens.
Along with nutrition, sleep is the most powerful tool you have in recovery. If you're not getting enough of it, your performance will suffer. So whether this is your first half marathon or your 15th, remember to train like you fill your coffee cup. Steady, consistent, and balanced. Don't overfill your coffee cup. Otherwise, you will end up cleaning up the mess instead of making it to the finish line.
Now that you've got your half marathon plan down, let's make sure you're not leaving anything on the table. If you've ever worried that lifting weights is going to make you bulky, I've got great news for you. Being muscular doesn't mean sacrificing your femininity, especially for female runners over the age of 45. In our next video, we're debunking that myth and showing you how strength training can help manage menopausal weight gain. Don't miss out on this training gem. Click here to watch it.